The meaning about fashion and luxury changed over time. If I go back to my experience when I was, for example, in Bottega Veneta, I mean, I was used to look at every single word that I was written by the journalist after interviews, etc., because that was remaining forever. If you look at today, I mean, the content is burned so quick. And while before, I mean, there was a show, hardly you saw any pictures. So the editorial were coming out just before the product was dropped in the shops. There was no e-commerce, no social. So the aspiration that you had in order to get that product was extremely high. While today, I mean, everything is going to be, they're so quick. There are so many algorithms. So, and people, creative directors especially, they're obliged to create contents on a daily basis. So I think the evolving meaning of luxury not necessarily is worse, it's just different. So before there was this kind of aspiration about the product and the waiting and the scarcity. Today is much more democratic, and the way in which I think brands are approaching it, they try to work with the customer on a single basis. So they try to pamper the client for single events, making them feel extremely special. That was the same case when you, in the past, you were buying that specific product that was very scarce. You had to just by yourself. So I think it's evolving that direction. I don't know how much that is going to be sustainable, frankly, because I mean, it's going to be like a client share game because everybody's targeting the same client that is shopping at that level. So it's not an easy work for brands, but it is what it is. And it's like, I don't think it's going to go back. It's extremely difficult to define or to even think what is going to happen in the future because I mean the world is evolving so quickly. I think that the cause of luxury, as we said earlier, evolves quite dramatically. I think experience, pampering, taking care of customer is going to become more and more important. I mean, technology will certainly make a big change in the industry. Even if I think that if you want to make sure that the added value and the profitability and the margins that you have today in luxury would be maintained, you are obliged to use technology as a tool and not as a substitution of human capabilities. Otherwise, everybody's going to do exactly the same things. So, I mean, the evolution is going to come from people, as usual. I mean, the leaders are going to make the change. They're going to define the right way for the company that they're managing. And as long as they are coherent, they understand what's happening outside, because, I mean, we need to remember that the brands have, the positioning of the brands depends on two things. One is are the values of the brand that are immutable, and then is what's happening outside. That's the reason why the aesthetic is evolving, why luxury is evolving. So I think that the people that are able to understand and intercept consumer behavior and moving the brands accordingly are the ones that are going to win. I know that I go back always to the same thing, but I mean, leadership is key because creativity is extremely important. It's always been extremely important. It was more important in the past than now, I think, because the companies, well, the scale of the companies today, the role of the CEOs become even more important than in the past because creative people, they can do whatever they want. They can do an amazing show, they can do an amazing advertising campaign, but then so what? Because the size is so important. In the past, if you made a mistake in buying or allocating or visual, whatever, I mean, the impact that you had on the business number was tiny. Right now, if you don't really risk and you don't really bet on the creativity of the new designers, especially in the recent musical chairs, uh, that creativity will never reach the kind of customers because, I mean, the most important brand, the most important companies today, they are mostly retail driven. They have their own shops. So at the very end is the CEO deciding how much product I want to buy and how much I want to risk and how much billion I'm going to put on the table to provide sustainability to the creativity of the creative director. So the role of the creative director, I think, evolved in the last few years, because I mean they need to consider themselves not just as an artist, but as designers. Designers, they need to provide someone, a consumer, with a need in something. Of course, they have like a special talent versus a CEO, but then the CEO needs to not just understand what they do, but also to bet on them and to protect them. I think it's always good to come to these events, because I mean, I can meet people that I mean probably never met for like 20 years. So I see faces that is good to see for certain moment of the past, but also at the same time are very relevant to understand what's happening and to listen to them, and to listen to the, you know, to future ideas, and to networking, and maybe to collaborate. Who knows?